I always kick these things off with a story. I love stories. I think we can learn a lot from the way other people live their lives. So I did some reading, and I came across this incredible story of Ben Saunders, 23-year-old young buck who wasn't afraid to do anything. When he was growing up, he read about explorers. He was fascinated by the daring, challenging things that they did with their lives. So what he decided was that he wanted to walk to the North Pole. Okay? In 1995, an Italian mountaineer, his name was Reinhold Messner, he decided he was going to walk to the North Pole. And in about a week, he had to call for a rescue. He said it was 10 times harder than climbing Mount Everest. But this ambition still called to Ben Saunders. Okay, so you can kind of get an idea of how difficult this exercise was for him. So one of the things that he did was he found a friend who actually wanted to do this expedition with him, and he and his friends set out to do it. They read maps, they figured out which direction they had to go. They didn't plan for success, but they definitely hoped that they would succeed. And everything that could have gone wrong on that expedition did. On day 2, they got attacked by a polar bear. He got frostbite in his left big toe. They started running low on food only halfway through the expedition. They had walked 600 miles, and they were 200 miles from the North Pole when the ice broke up and there was too much water and they had to call for a rescue. He had dreamed his whole life of crossing the Arctic Ocean on foot and reaching the North Pole, and he failed 200 miles out. Well, they called for a rescue, they went home. See, the problem is when they looked back to see what they had done, they hadn't done much. They just packed a 400-pound sled with all the equipment they thought they were going to need for 800 miles. And they had low-tech equipment. They only had about 2 hours of communication over the course of 2 months with the outside world. They didn't have much navigation equipment. They fell short in anything that would keep them dry if the ice broke up. And they realized they really hadn't prepared for success, but he was so depressed that they had failed that he went home to his mother's house and laid on the couch and watched daytime TV for months and months and months. He finally got off the couch and he decided, which is key, you have to decide before you do something, right? You all decided to be here. He decided that he wanted to walk across to the North Pole, across the Arctic Ocean, solo. But he realized his mistakes the first go round, and he knew he was going to have to put into practice a radical plan. And he trained in a radical way. He put on this altitude mask, and he trained as if he was already in the Arctic area. He got together with a world-renowned nutritionist and put together a revolutionary 6,000 calorie a day diet. And he created 95 packs of 6,000 calories a day to take on the sled with him. He designed a suit, or he had a suit designed. It was a dry suit, so he could ski across thin ice, and if he fell in the water, it wouldn't mean death. My guess, that gave him a lot of peace of mind, knowing he was going to be up there alone. He took a lot of precautions to make sure that he was ready for this journey. Funny thing is he planned it right down to the last detail. He cut off his toothbrush, he called it his sawed-off toothbrush. It was 2 grams. He felt like the detail of cutting off his toothbrush and making it this big versus making it that big would make a difference. He had to pull 400 pounds. And if he was going to do something the equivalent of 31 back-to-back marathons for 95 days, he was going to have to be very careful about planning, even in the details. So, the day came, he was flown up to Russia, He hired a little commuter airline called Crash Airlines. I don't know if that was a good idea or not. CRAS. And they flew him up to Katanga, which is known as the very end of civilization, as you would know it. And then they loaded onto a helicopter all of his supplies in his sled, got on the helicopter, flew to an ice patch, landed. He got out, unloaded all of his equipment. The pilot waved goodbye and slammed the door shut on the helicopter and flew away. He is the only human being standing on a piece of ice that is 1.5 times the size of America. What would that feel like? He said he didn't have words to describe what it felt like when that door slammed shut. He's like, it was something inside was like, wait. I mean, I better go bang on the door. Maybe I haven't really thought this through all the way. But he didn't, because he had gone to radical measures to plan to succeed. And so the helicopter flew away, and there he was, left to do what he set out to do. He had committed to commit. When that helicopter door slammed shut, that was the commitment right there. He had to know he was ready to do something extraordinary. And so he began. He started walking. He started pulling his two 200-pound sleds. When the ice was flattish, kind of flat, he was able to pull 2 sleds at a time. But when the pressure built up underneath the ice and the ice peaked, he would have to pull one sled over the peaks, walk back and get the other one. He was doing double duty. It was intense, right? NASA actually reported that the ice conditions were the worst that year since they started recording weather in the Arctic. So it was challenging, and he was on icebergs that were always shifting underneath. One day, he walked 7 hours pulling 400 pounds of supplies. He camped. He woke up in the morning, and he was 2.5 miles behind where he started the day before. Kind of a hiccup, but not a deal killer. So he kept walking, and he kept pulling. After a while, it wasn't the ice that was a problem for him. After a while, it was the water, because the ice was melting and breaking up, and the water became a challenge. And he was trying to act like a polar bear. Polar bears travel in dead straight lines through the water. So he didn't try and hop icebergs, he went through the water. He skied on the thin ice, and he swam and pulled his sleds in the Arctic water. Pretty incredible. Every day he blogged. He sent information back home to his sponsor and his loved ones who were wondering how he was doing. He let them know the temperatures, the ice conditions, everything that was happening, how he felt, how his health was maintaining, that sort of thing. And he always sent pictures. He documented his journey. On day 68, he reached the North Pole. He stood there, and his GPS said 9.0000000 infinity. He was standing smack dab on the North Pole, and his comment was, "There's nothing there." He thought that he'd find something, maybe a little something, pole, something that said he was there. But the only way he knew was on his GPS. And he sat down and he took a note in his journal and said, "This is so thrilling for me to know that I am standing on the very point from which the whole earth is revolving underneath my feet." That was his goal. He did it. He got there. And he wanted to share it with 3 people. So he made 3 phone calls. First, he had to warm up the battery in his armpit because it was too cold to work until it got warm. He called his mother. He called his girlfriend, and he called his sponsor, and he got 3 voicemails. He eventually got hold of his mother, and she started crying at the grocery store and asked him to call her back. Anyway, it's pretty significant that he was able to do what he did and ski in the conditions that he skied and travel the way he traveled. But he did it because he had planned to succeed. He knew how he was going to get to the North Pole. He had visualized it, he had lived it, he had practiced, he had packed for it, he was ready. Okay, we don't have to hike to the North Pole in order to succeed. We just have to plan to succeed. And whatever it is that we're trying to do, and since we're all in this room together, we're going to use losing weight, fat loss, transforming our bodies, however you want to phrase it. We are planning to succeed. Summit Athletic Club as a staff and a team are planning for your success. That's why we have this contest in place. So let's talk about the 6 things of planning to succeed. Number 1, you've got to map it out, right? You've got to schedule your workouts. What time of day are you going to exercise every day? Make sure it happens. Don't sell yourself short by replacing that with something else. It's your time to work out. Make sure it happens. You want to know what you're going to order when you go out to eat. Call ahead, get the menu. You can always order a grilled chicken salad, always. And set enough time aside to get adequate sleep. These are not all you can do to map out, but they're important things. Sleep is when your body repairs, it has to rest, and then it'll be ready to rise and do exactly what you're asking it to do by exercising and eating and taking care of all the other responsibilities that you have every day, and hopefully minimizing some of your stresses. Number 2, you need to practice radical preparation. That means take a day and plan your meals out for the week. Whether that's Saturday, Sunday, Monday, I don't care. Choose the day that's best for you and decide what you're going to eat all week long, because you're going to eat like it's your job. 6 times a day. Not big meals, small meals, nutritionally dense meals, but continuous. You're going to get your gym bag ready the night before. Make sure your socks are clean, make sure you've got water wherever you're going, whether you take 1 jug with you or you plant water at home, at your office, in the car, drink lots of water. Those are all elements of planning. Number 3, train like it's true. If you want to feel more energetic, if you want to feel lighter, act like it's happening already. Don't wait for it to be in the future. We're not waiting to feel happy and energetic in 6 weeks. We're looking to feel like that now. Even if you're like, that's not really true, train like it is. Pick up the weights like you always do. Even if you haven't, tell yourself, I'm going to pick up my weights just like I always would, like I always want to, like I always will. Do the things that makes it feel like you're already living the way you want to be. Number 4, wear your safety suit. My guess is that when he put on his safety suit that fit over his boots and over his mittens and sealed around his face, it gave him a lot of peace of mind knowing that if he went in the water, he wasn't going to die. Well, we're not doing something so drastic that we might die from it, but I want you to practice peace of mind by giving yourself a break. Practice self-compassion. This is not a perfect science. If you have a cupcake, if you eat a plate of pasta, it's not the end of the world. Learn from it, and then practice better the next meal. You're going to be eating 6 times a day. That's 6 opportunities to make good choices, okay? So one of the things that we kind of tend to do when we get in one of these contests is we think, I gotta do 10 pounds a week, and I have to eat hardly anything and work out more because I want all of it to fall off. But remember, you didn't get to a place of feeling uncomfortable in 6 weeks. It's going to take time. We're here to jumpstart you. Practice patience. This is a process, not a protocol. It's a journey, not an event. Take your time. Number 5, hook up with high tech. If you don't have a heart rate monitor, get one. If you take the number 220 and subtract your age, that's your maximal heart rate. If you subtract another 20 points off of that, that's your goal. You want to get there. And then you know if you're working hard enough or not. You know when you get there because it says so right there. Okay? Journal your journey. Get on your computer and keep track of your feelings. Make sure you record what you do well, not just what you did wrong. Write down what you're doing right and celebrate it. Give yourself credit for doing that. Make sure you have your teammates on speed dial. Call them, talk to them. You are not the only one feeling lost, feeling guilty, feeling anything. Call them. That's why we did this in teams, because together everyone achieves more. Use your grill. If you have a George Foreman, if you have a grill outside, and if you don't have either one, I suggest you get them, because people ask me all the time, what am I going to eat for lunch? I'm so uninspired. I said, open up the George Foreman. Chicken on the left, asparagus on the right, seasonal for everything. Close the lid. Lunch is ready. 10 minutes. What's your ingredient list? Chicken, asparagus. It's awesome. Okay. Number 6, lighten your load. Get more sleep. You will feel so less stressed if you go to sleep. Don't stay up late. You're not going to be any smarter from watching Project Runway. Go to bed. You need it. Cut out the TV, and if there's something, anything that's stopping you from achieving your goals, stop doing that. I know, it's not rocket science, is it? But we're so hard on ourselves. We think we need to stay up a little bit longer because we're going to relax. No, you need to go to sleep. That's why you're thinking, I need a chocolate bar right now, because you're tired. Go to sleep. Do things that is going to bring you peace and lighten your load. All right, those are the 6 ways that you can plan to succeed. Again, we want you to win. Dinner Winner is about winning here. We put a $2,000 carrot in front of you, but this is where we want you to tell your story from in the end. The Latin root word of courage is cor. Cor means from the heart, and the original meaning of the word courage is tell your story from your heart. So we want you to do this Dinner Winner from here. This is about you. This is your time. All right? And we're here for you.